Hello, I'm Dr. Max Thornsberry. I'm a technical dairy specialist with Milk Specialties Global Animal Nutrition. I want to visit with you today about electrolyte and fluid management in the calf. Now, I'm an older veterinarian. I graduated from the University of Missouri in 1977, and Dr. Carl Davis, who wrote this book, which is now out of print with Dr. Drakely, is kind of the calf guru of the 70s and 80s. And I can remember in 78 and 79 and time period like 82 and 85, I would have a question about calf electrolyte management and fluid therapy, and I would call Dr. Davis at the University of Illinois, and we would visit, and he would give me his advice or send me some papers. If you can find that book somewhere, maybe on Amazon, or you go through an old bookstore, this is a valuable tool for calf raisers. And if you get a chance, please try to purchase that and get you a copy. You can't have mine. Recently, in the veterinary clinics of North America Food Animal Practice, this is 2014, Dr. Russell and Dr. Jeff Smith have published a book on fluid and electrolyte therapy. Now, this is a pretty technical book. If you can't speak in terms of milliequivalence and osmolarity and percent dehydration and things of that nature, this book's probably not going to be a great interest to you, but your local practitioner can use this book as a reference. It's not my goal today to give you an education in calf physiology, biochemistry, and all the other things associated with fluid management and electrolyte management. What I want to do today is to give you as a calf raiser a very valuable tool on how to practically utilize electrolytes. Now, the question is, what are electrolytes? Electrolytes are things like sodium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, chloride ion. These are vital to physiological mammalian function. They're vital to any animal function. They are the electrolytes that move in and out of membranes. They move from the intestine to the bloodstream, from the bloodstream to tissues. The exchange of electrons between sodium and calcium and magnesium and chloride ion are what allow your muscles to contract. Exchange between potassium and sodium and chloride are what allow your nervous system to function, electrical impulses to move through your nervous system and allow a nerve to tell you if there's pain or to allow you to feel from touch. These are essential components of a mammalian physiological system. When we think in terms of electrolytes, sodium and chloride and potassium are lost or utilized by the calf in great amounts when the calf is under stress. That can be heat stress, it can be cold stress, it can be diarrhea, it can be pneumonia. But where we see a real issue with these baby calves is they're purchased somewhere in Wisconsin or Minnesota or way up in Ohio or Indiana, and they're put on a trailer and they travel 8, 10, 12, 14 hours to a calf ranch or to a facility where they're going to be raised. That is called transport stress. And those calves generally come to you completely strung out. And by that I mean they're weak, they don't want to move, they're laying down, they don't have any energy. That is primarily the result of a loss of glucose and potassium. And we can invigorate those calves and give them life and do it rather quickly if we can get a source of electrolytes into those calves immediately upon release to the farm of where they're going to be raised, if we can get glucose and potassium in them. We need to balance that, of course, with other electrolytes, but those two things will bring a strung out calf to life. And generally within 30 minutes, he'll be up bawling for something to eat. Now, we have a product at Milk Specialties called Calf Ally. We don't sell this in individual dose packages. This is sold in 25-pound bags, but it is extremely economical. 4 ounces of this electrolyte, which contains everything we want to see in electrolyte, and I'll discuss that in just a few minutes, is mixed into 2 quarts of about 110 degree Fahrenheit water until all the powder is dissolved. It's a completely clear electrolyte. When all of this goes in solution, you cannot see it. It's perfectly clear. And you offer this in a nipple, through a nipple bottle or a bucket. If they won't drink it, they're so strung out they won't drink it, then you tube feed it with an esophageal tube feeder. Within 30 minutes, generally, that calf will be up on its feet bawling. Now, this glucose is a source of energy. It's the primary source of energy, but the glucose in here has a lot of functions other than just energy. Glucose is what's going to drive at the membrane level the absorption of potassium into this calf. And without adequate amounts of glucose, potassium cannot be absorbed properly. There's also an amino acid in this electrolyte called glycine. Now, glycine is a glucose metabolism regulator. That's hard to believe that amino acid, something that's going to make a protein, would be so important in glucose absorption and regulation. But glycine regulates the amount of insulin that's released, the activity of insulin, and as you know, insulin is what allows us to move glucose into the cells and utilize it. This electrolyte also contains some bicarbonate of soda. That is a neutralizer. It's the ability to regulate acid-base balance in the calf, because often when the calf has utilized a lot of its glucose, potassium, sodium through the stress of transport or diarrhea, they are acidic. Now, I'm not going to get into acid-base balance with you. That requires you to take about a 5-hour course in calf physiology to fully understand. But having some sodium bicarbonate in this electrolyte solution is important. I think the most important electrolyte, I guess that's like saying one of my professors when we were in school asked us to write a paper, and at the top of the paper we're to put what is the most important organ in the body. And one of my fellow students said the liver is the most important organ in the body, and our professor wrote across the top, what about the heart? And gave him an F. So it's very difficult to say that one electrolyte is much more important than another, but when a calf gets low on potassium, he is strung out, he is weak, he has no muscle strength, he can't move. If you get low enough on potassium, the calf simply lays down and dies. So potassium is a very important part of this electrolyte system. To get that potassium back into the system, it is driven in with glucose by the release of insulin, somewhat regulated by the amino acid glycine, and immediately, within minutes, that calf begins to perk up, sit up, stand up, and then begin to bawl for something to eat. People ask me how long after we give this electrolyte should we feed milk replacer. Understand that milk replacer is a very good electrolyte solution. It contains potassium, sodium, chloride, magnesium, phosphorus, all the things that an electrolyte solution should contain, but also contains fat and protein and lactose, which is a rather slowly broken down sugar for sustained energy. As soon as that calf really acts like it's up and going and wants to eat, probably within an hour or two, certainly no later than 4 to 6 hours, because you're going to utilize up all of the energy that the electrolyte provided, and now you're going to be back to square one with your calf. So this is not a replacement for milk. This is a way to stimulate the calf and get him up and going, get his appetite going, get his energy level going, get him some muscle strength, and get everything functioning and wiggling and going, and now he's ready to drink some milk replacer. So I highly recommend that all calves that are under transport stress receive whatever they'll drink 2 quarts of this. We put 4 ounces of this product into 2 full quarts of water. There's a little scoop in this 25-pound bag, and about a scoop and a half will be 4 ounces of this product. You can either weigh it out if you're going to make several gallons, or if you're going to just make 2 quart bottles at a time, you can take 1.5 scoops. Let me tell you something really good about this electrolyte. I helped develop this and design it and work with it a few years ago. This is an extremely economical electrolyte. A 1 4-ounce dose is going to run you around 40 or 45 cents, and you can't even get close to that if you go to a farm store and buy a typical electrolyte. You won't even get close to it. So if you had a 25-pound bag of this on hand, you'd have probably less invested than you would a box of 12 packets of electrolyte. Very economical, very easy to use, very well designed, contains everything that you would need in electrolyte, particularly a clear electrolyte. Now, we also make the Calf Ally with a thickening agent in it. This has gar gum in it. You may not know what gar gum is, but let me tell you, look on your ice cream ingredient list when you get home. You're going to find gar gum. Look on your bottle of French salad dressing or Thousand Islands salad dressing, and you're going to find gar gum. It's a natural thickening agent. Now, it's not psyllium. A lot of veterinarians do not want psyllium placed in an electrolyte solution because psyllium slows down the absorption of glucose. If you've seen any TV commercials recently, I'm sure you've seen some Metamucil advertisements. They're really pushing Metamucil. And they will say on this advertisement, on this commercial, that it helps to regulate and slow down glucose absorption. So if you're a type 2 diabetic, you can use psyllium mixed in to slow down glucose and regulate. Well, that's not what we want to do. We want to get glucose in this calf just as fast as we can get it in him. And so there is no psyllium in here. It has a thickening agent. It has some oat powder in it. Now, oat powder, if you get down and look at it microscopically, is like a sponge. Not only does it also soak up some water and slow transport down, but it helps to absorb toxins. So why do we put this gelling agent in this Calf Ally? We don't have it in this one, the clear electrolyte. Why would we put it in this one? Well, this one is this one with some gelling agent in it. And the gelling agent is utilized, this electrolyte with gelling agent is used to treat calves that have watery diarrhea. Maybe they have crypto. Maybe they have a bad case of rota or corona. Everything is running right straight through them. We give them the gelled product in order to slow the passage down. So the calf actually has enough time to absorb the glucose, the potassium, the sodium, the chloride ion. This is a little more expensive. It's going to run you actually about twice as much as the clear electrolyte. So we would not use this for transport stress or heat stress. We don't need it. But if you have calves that individually need treated, then this gel product would be beneficial. You must mix this at the calf side. This thing gels up really quick. You can't get something that has the same consistency as Thousand Islands dressing through a nipple. So you got to mix it up, get in the calf immediately. This turns the electrolyte slightly yellow to brown because these gelling agents have some color to them. This one is going to be perfectly clear. Once you mix it up, you can't tell it from water. So be a little bit careful how you use an electrolyte. Yes, we can use them over and over. We can give them morning, noon, and night. It's kind of like drinking Gatorade if we have the right osmolarity, and this does have the right osmolarity. I've measured it. It's in that 250 to 260 range. Milk is 270. The problem is if a calf does not have free choice water to drink, at the same time we are giving it sodium, you can develop sodium toxicity. That's where sodium builds up and then it draws fluid. You know, water follows sodium. You ever put salt down on something, it draws moisture. If you happen to have a concrete floor, it'll draw moisture. It'll draw water into the brain and swell the brain, and the brain has no place to go because it's in a bony encasement, and the calf will die. So when you're going to use electrolytes, if you use them repeatedly, make sure there's free choice water available to regulate that sodium. The very same reason why you can't drink seawater if you're stranded on the ocean. Seawater has a high sodium content and osmolarity of about 700 to 1100 depending on where you are. I remember the first time I jumped in the Caribbean Sea on one of the first mission trips I made to Haiti, and I thought, this has stung my eyes. I'd had no idea seawater was as salty as it was. You absolutely cannot drink it because you have no water to regulate the sodium. Sodium builds up. If you watch these movies, people develop hysteria. They see things that aren't there. Eventually they die because the brain swells, and when that happens, death is imminent. So watch out how you use these. You can use them as long as you have free choice water available. We never mix an electrolyte into 2 quarts of milk replacer. We have milk replacer that's 270 osmolarity. We put in electrolytes that's 260. Now what we got? Over 500. and we're in trouble now, big trouble. People say, how often do I feed an electrolyte? Well, if the calf has a lot of issues with losing fluids from diarrhea, you feed it 3 or 4 times a day. In cases where we have a very significant crypto infection, we will feed it morning, noon, evening, and then once before they go to bed, and make sure water is available. You don't want to use it too many days in a row. I have people that get the idea that in the summertime they should feed an electrolyte solution in their water every day at noon. Well, eventually you're going to build up sodium in that calf. Sodium also is an appetite depressant. If you put salt on your food, you will eat less food than if you didn't put salt on it. And it's the same with a calf. When you keep giving him sodium, he's going to cut back on his intake of food. It's just the way it is. It's an appetite suppressant. We want to limit what cattle are going to eat. If we put out a salt mix or a mineral mix, we mix salt with it, and they can eat about 1 pound of salt a day, a big old cow can, and that's all she's going to eat. So we need to be careful and cautious about that. Free choice water at all times. Remember that milk is the best natural electrolyte that calf is ever going to get. Don't quit feeding milk. Just don't put the electrolyte in the milk. Feed it separately. Feed the milk in the morning and come back at noon and feed the electrolyte. Don't feed them in the same bottle. Don't mix them together. Feed them separately. You shouldn't have a problem as long as you have fresh and free choice water. I have a stressed calf receiving program that I've made available to several of our customers and distributors. It's just a simple little protocol about how to treat a load of calves that come in stressed. When do you feed a milk replacer? How much electrolyte do you give them? And I'll make this available to any of our customers or distributors should they want it. Now, this is a book I've written, Dairy Calf Production Protocol, 8th edition. I'm an 8,000 bestseller. 8,000 bestseller. Nobody's laughing. I have a section in here on page 163 called Salt or Sodium Toxicity, Unusual Sudden Calf Deaths. This will give you a pretty good indication of what I'm talking about salt poisoning or sodium toxicity. It is a real thing. Make sure you're not using softened water for your milk replacer mixing or for drinking water. It's not uncommon for softened water to have 500 or 600 parts per million sodium. We don't drink softened water in our home. We drink well water. We use softened water to wash our dishes, wash our clothes, and take a shower in. Do not drink softened water, and do not use softened water for the calf. We often come up with wells that are high in sodium. They don't taste salty. Sodium itself has no taste in water unless it's combined with a chloride ion. And we've had very significant issues with sodium toxicity when that is the only water available. Well, I think that pretty well covers everything I want to talk with you about. Remember this product, very economical, about 40 cents a dose. And get this into calves just as soon as you receive them in. And consider this product for treating calves that have diarrhea. And if you have calves that have really significant diarrhea where it's watery and they're dehydrating, consider the Calf Ally with the gelling agent in it. Just something to slow things down to give the calf a little more time to absorb these key electrolytes. I hope you found this video beneficial, and I hope you can use it. If you have any questions or your veterinarian has questions, I'll give him references to this. If you'd like a copy of this stress calf receiving program, simply contact me. My contact information is on the last page of this book. Thank you very much.